Anne Scott Pendlebury, you really are one of the family of the Vic Arts. You came here as a child at 6 years of age.
I think I was six years of age was my first memory of coming here, but in actual fact I was brought here as a baby in arms by my very young parents, who were then members of the society. Of course I don't remember that, but I have very fond memories of a maybe 4, 5, 6-year-old running up and down the stairs, which in those days weren't carpeted, and since our beautiful restoration the stairs are now back to the original stone and timber of how I remember them. So
now, of course, your parents were really some of the foundations of the society over many, many years. I think your dad was the president?
Yes, he was. My mother actually was a girl of 19 or 20 when she joined the society. Her father enrolled her, and I still have a copy of her sort of membership details signed by the then president and secretary. So mother was a member for over 40 years, and at the end of the Second World War, when my father came out of the army, he also joined up around about 1946-47. So their membership really took them through to the probably late 70s.
But during that time, as today, the society still has many, many members, all types of age groups, and people come from all countries all over the world. It's like a universal painting area, isn't it?
Yes, it is actually. Certainly a few years ago, a number of years ago, when there weren't the smaller groups and societies around, it was the society in Melbourne that artists of all varying standards joined. And I think the lovely thing is that we still have members today that joined as very young painters, perhaps 40, 50, 60 years ago. It's the kind of society, I believe, where you join because it's a very privileged, it's a very prestigious organisation in Melbourne, in Victoria. But artists like to keep their membership going. It's just a lovely society to be part of. And I'm certainly, I don't paint, but I think it's a lovely privilege to have a membership of the society.
And of course the real action is out in that historic studio where Streeton and Roberts and those guys went to paint.
Yeah, our studio downstairs, which was I suppose built in the 1870s, which is the original blue and stone building, is hallowed ground, and even I, who am not an artist, go in and just revere the atmosphere, the original timber floor. It was originally called the Morgue because it was so cold in the winter, but it's a very special place, not unlike a small original European or English or even Australian theatre that people just love visiting. So,
and the society over the years has played a major role in Melbourne. For instance, it's I think it was part of the first Moomba. There's so many paintings of the city of Melbourne around from members, which still continues today because we have the outdoor group that goes out.
That's right. We have a group of plein air painters who enjoy sort of painting outdoors, and because we're so wonderfully situated in Melbourne, in East Melbourne, it's the building and our society is so accessible. It's a wonderful central meeting place, and now, thanks to the beautiful renovation and the building being restored, members could come in early in the morning, do a painting class, sit in our Eileen Mackley members' room and have some lunch, which is like a reading room, library, relaxing room, and you could really spend the whole day here. It's so in that sense, it's a kind of a club, it's a meeting ground of so many artists.
Now, before we go, I want you to tell us about this beautiful painting by your dad behind you.
Yes, it's I remember my father painting that. He was the president here in 1962-63, and I would say this was early 60s, so painted around the time. It's called Clark's Cottage, which gives the sense of it being very rural and out in country Victoria. But I have to say it was actually the cottage that was right next door to our family home. And our family were very fortunate. We lived in the lovely leafy eastern suburbs of Melbourne in the days when the blocks were very, very large. So
what area was that?
That was actually Baldwin.
Baldwin. Large
yes.
blocks of land.
Huge blocks. Our home was here. We had an apple orchard and a big grass tennis court. And the Clark family, who kept, old Mrs. Clark kept this old cottage right up until the late 60s, and then another family came in and purchased it, and the place was pulled down. So my brother and I, when we were very small children, used to hop over the fence, and they had a large garage and a storage shed. So it was really, although Baldwin was at the time a built-up, lovely suburb to live in, as I said, the blocks were very large, and so it was all very rural. I think my father's beautifully captured. I remember that was the main road there, Baldwin Road. As I say, our property was here, but I very clearly remember the lovely early Australian home, and that the roof had sort of was rusted, and we used to hop over the fence and pick fruit from the Clark's property next door. But it's an example of one of his very free stars, probably at the peak of his career. He would have been a young man in his late 40s then, I think. It's
a very lovely painting just to sit and look at. And just before we go, the question is, you came here when you were 6. Obviously, you've seen thousands of painters and paintings, etc. But when you look around here today at this special exhibition, this 150th exhibition from artists from a whole period of time, what does it say to you as a person?
I think it's a very precious collection. A lot of the works, I mean, I'm dating myself now, but a number of the works were by artists that I remember when I was a little girl, and I used to meet them here at the various openings. That's going back perhaps 50 or 60, certainly 50 or 60 years. It's very valuable. It's almost like a record of Melbourne in a way. Some of the early scenes of Melbourne, Victoria, particularly I'm looking at one at the moment of Daylesford. So it's like turning back the pages of a beautiful sort of art book, and so many of the works do capture Victoria of yesteryear, I suppose.
And now, Anne, we've been into the history, but of course there's something about your history as an actress, that you happened to be on a top-rating television show that was very popular.
Well, there were several. I started out, I suppose, in a show called Bellbird for the ABC. Now that really does date me, and many older people will perhaps fondly remember Bellbird.
Yes.
And the last series I appeared in was Neighbours, of which I'm very proud, because that's a great example of another aspect of Australiana. Yes. So I've come from, run the gamut of in between during the 60s, 70s and 80s as well.
I thought I wouldn't let you get away without mentioning that.
No. Well, I'm very proud of both series, and my hair was very short in Bellbird when I was a girl of 20, and many, many years later, Neighbours was the opportunity to go into that show for a number of years. And then I had a 20-year gap, and then as recently as 5 years ago I was asked to go back onto Neighbours as the same character as I created 20 years ago, but of course now she's
A bit older.
A little bit older, yes. But the wardrobe hadn't changed that much. And so
Anne Scott Pendlebury, thanks very much for taking us on a lovely journey.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne.